Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have all trustees present except for Trustee Guerrero-Getch. Karina, has the agenda been posted according to open meeting law? Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Pledge of Allegiance, profile of a learner. We have EC Best Elementary students from Mrs. Mayfield's class. Genesis Peru Landeros, Ava Barros, Jackson Miller, Abigail Moore, Gabriella Horn, and Maya Carter. If you guys could please come up to this table right here, that would be great.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. My name is Gabby Horn, and I am in Miss Mayfield's class. To me, being a lifelong learner means learning forever, even when you grow up. At school, I learn math, reading, and PE. I hope to keep learning all my favorite things as I grow up. When kids start to love learning now, it will help us to learn for the rest of our lives.
A lifelong learner by Abigail Moore. A lifelong learner is a person who, even after graduating, still enjoys learning. Some by reading books and others by watching videos and going to the library.
Hello. Being a lifelong learner means staying curious and excited to discover new things every day. No matter how old you are, it's like going on a never-ending adventure where you ask questions, try new activities, read books, and learn from the people around you. Even mistakes can be helpful because they teach you how to do better next time. When you keep learning, your brain grows stronger, your imagination gets bigger, and the world becomes a more interesting place full of possibilities.
Being a lifelong learner, when we are born, we have to learn how to do many things like to breathe and eat. As we grow and develop, we have to learn new things like how to walk and speak. We naturally become explorers as we engage in non-stop adventures full of learning experiences. When we start school, we start a guided journey full of knowledge that has no limits. As we get older, we keep learning in the professional and personal world. It is good for our brains to keep learning and to stay updated. It makes us healthier. It brings happiness and success to our lives.
Hello, my name is Jackson Miller. I'm in Miss Mayfield's class at EC Best. I would like to tell you how being a bulldog is helping me become a lifelong learner. When I grow up, I want to be an engineer. Creation Station that Mr. Barton has made for specials helped me really think about what being an engineer is like, creating things, working together, and problem solving. Miss Mayfield has taught me how to write and type paragraphs and multiplication, which will also help me too as I keep working hard in school. I am grateful to have such great teachers and friends that make me love school. These experiences make me want to keep learning and accomplish my goals. Thank you.
Okay, if you guys could come up here for a minute to get a certificate and a treat. Great job. Here, pick up some if you want. Do you want some? That one, thank you. Never mind, leave me hanging. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Oh, she's got some pick one yet. Thank you. Let's give one more round of applause. Okay, moving on to public comment. Members of the public who speak are asked to state their name for the record will be limited to uniform number of minutes. Board members may respond briefly to public comments but cannot deliberate on matters that are not listed on the agenda. For matters on the agenda, the board will conduct public comment after discussion of each agenda action item, but before the board takes any action. Summary of public comments will be noted. Any public comments tonight? All right, seeing none, we will move on to review and adoption of agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as posted.
Okay, I have a motion by Trustee McFadden, a second by Trustee Whitaker. Is there any public discussion on the posting of the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Recognition. The board will recognize the Churchill County High School 2026 State Archery Champions.
So some in the room know the high school has an archery program. It is not a state-sanctioned sport, unfortunately, but we are able to provide this opportunity to our students, and it really does teach a lot to them and gives them the opportunity to compete at a local and state level, and we even have some that I think are going to Western Regional or Western Nationals. So for the 2026 Nevada State Archery Champions, we have Oj Cecil, yep. When you're done, just stand here on the stairs. Vicente Alcantar Herrera, Rhett Beach, Levi Bradford, Morgan Brinson, Wiley Bortfield, Michaela Carnes, Gabriella Case, Jasmine Collier, Amelia Downen, Elia Ellis, Alondra Garcia Carrillo, Alyssa Gardner, Jessica Gibson, Trevor Gully, Brett Hammond, Donovan Harris, Joshua Hernandez Molina. Dwayne Hughes. Sydney Jones. Colton Jonte. Isabella LaPlana. Donald Lefort. Sydney Lowe. Kella Malama Gomes. Colby McFadden. Jeremiah Medecki. Sheila Miller. Kylie Moore. Yep. Jonah Morgan. Michael Morgan. Alexia Murray. Ida Nelson. Mara Oviet. William Price. Ellery Reganas. Alfredo Perez. Cole Peterson. If you guys could start just filing in on these stairs here so we can get a picture when we're all done. Courtney Phipps. Devin Pitt. Kenneth Pine. Franklin Sabanovich. Jaylene Santos. Alicia Seymour. Patrick Silva. Charlotte Stevens. Amy Reese Stowe. Aviana Strickland. Natasha Taylor. Caden Walsh. Did we miss anyone? We mixed up a name. What was the name that we needed? Naida Nelson. What do we have her? Mr. Mello, do you want to say anything? You want to say a few words, Brian? Okay. No pressure. Okay.
Hey, I know Coach Smith is not here. She is super proud of you guys. As an athletic director, I'm proud of you, the whole admin staff. Great job. Let's keep going. Here we go. Take care.
Great job. Yes. All right, moving on to letter B. Captain Heyman with Fallon, Nevada Air Station will provide a short presentation regarding the month of the military child. As you can see, we all have our versions of purple on. And also there's a proclamation back there where the city of Fallon dyed the fountain downtown purple in honor of the military child. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for... I broke the microphone. Well, thanks for having me this evening. Good evening. I am Captain Mike Heyman, the Commanding Officer, Naval Air Station Fallon. I'm honored to be here tonight, not just as a representative of the United States Navy, but as a parent and a partner in our shared community. April is a deeply significant month for our military community, calling us to focus on our families and specifically celebrate the courage and sacrifice of millions of military children. In the military, we recognize that the strength of our unit is directly tied to the strength and well-being of our families. While the service member puts on the uniform, the entire family serves. These young members of our community embody resilience, adapting to the unique challenges of military life, including deployments and frequent relocations because of their parents' service to our nation. By the time a military child graduates high school, they have moved 6 to 9 times. They have had to repeatedly say goodbye to best friends, adapt to new curriculums mid-year, and navigate the anxiety of having a parent deployed overseas. I know these challenges from my own daughter's experiences. 9 addresses and 8 schools. She shared much of her own experiences in her collegiate essays when she was applying to college last year. Her experiences are her foundation. Yet despite all these challenges, military children thrive. They are much like the dandelion, the official flower of the military child, which puts down roots almost anywhere, adapts to its environment, and cannot be destroyed by the wind. That adaptability and cultural awareness make our military kids some of the most dynamic and worldly students in your classrooms. But they cannot thrive on resilience alone. They need fertile ground, and that is exactly what your schools and teachers provide. When parents deploy, their primary focus must be on the mission. They are worried about their child's transition to a new school. That sailor's distracted. When a service member knows their children are safe, welcomed, and receiving a high-quality education, it directly enhances our operational readiness. You are contributing directly to our mission readiness. Military is dedicated to children's successes through our child and youth programs, fleet and family support centers. However, our most vital partners are you and the connection to the students that we share via our school liaison officer. We are actively recruiting for our new SLO, but in the meantime, Jessica Nelson and Marissa Santos, who's here with me this evening, are filling in and assisting with that critical role between bridging Navy resources and your classrooms. Naval Air Station Fallon is committed to working hand in hand with you to ensure the continued success of the military-connected children. To the teachers, counselors, administrators, board members, thank you. Thank you for being a vital part of our extended military family and supporting our incredible military children in your schools. The Purple Star recognition that you maintain is a testament to your commitment to our military-connected children and their successes in and out of the classroom. Thank you again for your time this evening, and thank you for all of your support that you provide to the military-connected children within the community.
Thank you very much. Fallon appreciates the military presence and all you guys do over our country. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Superintendent update. A, latest student enrollment data is provided. Anybody have any questions on that? Yes, go ahead.
I'm kind of bookmarking because this was likely a discussion during the budget discussion. But if you look at our enrollment count days over the last 3 years, you'll see that we have a student loss of more than 200 students. I believe 22 was our highest count in the last several years, but there's been consistent loss. This is something that we're seeing in districts, not only in Nevada, but it's nationwide, that there is enrollment loss. And so I just want to know what our district is doing to plan for continued loss each year.
So with the enrollment, so when we do work on the budget that's coming up, we track our enrollment data back for several years, and we use count day data from the count day, and then we also look at our average daily attendance, and we go with that and use those so that we know, so that in our budget the number that's used is what our projected enrollment is for next year. We've looked at other things to try and see what things we can do to boost. There are some things that aren't within our control. We depending on how many students are within, our district, that's all we have, and however many we lose students to other schools, private schools, charter schools, homeschooling. So that, we're trying to do the very best that we can and have the best quality schools so that people want to come here. We'll attract them, but we are limited within our boundaries, and we also try to pay attention if we see things that are going to significantly impact maybe our population growth or boon, of which we don't have anything on that right now. But we do, within our budget, we do make that projection down each year. So we roll our students up every year into the appropriate grade levels, and we try to look at those numbers. And as you look throughout the year, you're going to see it's very common to see months that dip and months that go. I mean, it's like a roller coaster throughout the year often, but the general trend is down, and it has been. And so the number that's this year that was used to prepare the budget is based upon the enrollment projection for next year. So within the budget, we plan that, and you'll remember that last year coming into this year, and we do the same thing every year, is we evaluate all of our positions and how many are needed for that. So if we have vacant positions that we don't need, we're going to not fill those positions. And that will continue to happen even after the budget is through for this year, is if we see things and positions aren't filled and we see trends take a different toll, we don't fill unless we are pretty sure that we're going to need a position like that. In the effective savings, because we are funded per child on the number of students with the pupil-centered funding plan. So in the budget, we've accounted for that. So the numbers that are used to prepare the budget are based upon that declining enrollment. And one thing that with declining enrollment is that we're based upon our average daily enrollment, and we're funded on that through the year. And at the end of the year, if we have projected too high and the state's paying us too high, we do have to give that money back. So it's not saying if you expect you're going to have 4,000 kids and you budget for that many staff and you do it and you only have 3,500 kids, you lose money that year, even though they're under contract. We try to be very frugal in filling our positions, and you remember that coming into this year on the budget, we eliminate a lot of positions simply by vacant positions that we didn't fill as we went through, and we also closely monitor the class sizes in secondary school as well, and try to keep those sizes up to levels that aren't too overwhelming to make them very difficult to teach, but to levels that are financially sustainable with the income that we have.
Thank you.
I will do just a quick follow-up on that. So looking back at history, have we been fairly close to what we predicted the enrollment going to be versus what it was? I didn't look at that specifically, but in the last few years, I know that we've been pretty close. When we've come through, last year we had to give around 140,000 back, I think, to the state, which that's not very many students, so we were pretty close with it. That's only, that's less than 20 students that we were off. So it's been very reliable. And there are districts you will see, and there are some districts that have had some struggles with this that we see about in the news right now. But there have been events or different things, and they've lost significant numbers of students. We've had events like that in the past that have impacted the district heavily, but right now we're hopefully not seeing any. And a lot has to do with how many kids, how many students there are. We can only teach how many kids that there are within our community. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, moving on to human resource update. Any questions for Cameron? I have one. Cameron, I want you to kind of walk us through, you probably don't know what Reader's Digest is, so the short version of how we go through reassignments and transfers once a person leaves. Just kind of go through the whole scope of once you have a vacancy on teaching, what happens next?
Yeah.
So we're talking licensed for teachers.
Licensed, yes.
For licensed teachers specifically, yes. So once we get a formal resignation from one of our licensed teachers, what we do is we make a vacancy posting, and then we post to all staff, and internal transfers, and we follow what's in the master agreements, are open for 2 days for internal reassignments. Internal reassignments are for any staff within the building, the same school, to do an internal reassignment within that school. The principal at that time can provide us a memo just informing us of that internal transfer, and then we can go from there and fill that vacancy, and then we'll open up that teacher's vacancy and restart that process if that makes sense. And then, the 3 days are for internal transfers, which are for anyone within district to apply for that position, within district. And then after those 5 school days, then we can have external applicants apply for that position. So again, I'll repeat myself. Internal reassignments are for 2 days. Internal transfers are for 3 school days. And then after those 5 days, it opens up to external hires. It's posted for external.
Okay, so any opening that we currently have should have already gone through the internal. They should have got an email on both the reassignment and the transfer by now.
For which opening, sorry?
Let's just go with anybody that resigned in the last 30 days.
Yeah, so we had that, we had a sped position open up at Lahontan Elementary School. So we posted that vacancy for all staff. And so, they can go in and we have in the system, there's internal applications and then there's external applications. And if you've applied for the district before, it saves your application. So you can go in, and if you forgot in all of your login information, you could do the password reset and forgot information, and then get in and basically sign into your old application and apply as an internal hire. Or you could have an internal application and then submit your application.
So it's not email at all. They have to get on the web page and look for the opening, or is there actually?
Just to clarify, I think what you're asking, so they get, an email goes out to all teachers at the time of the posting.
Okay.
That posting has the job vacancy announcement on it, and it includes those dates. So it tells them if they're looking for, to be reassigned within the building, that they have the 2 days, then it has the dates for the 3 additional days for reassignments from other schools. So they actually get an email, that has the posting on it that goes to all teachers, when that opens. So they get that email, and then to apply, they have to go into the system and do that. And I think one thing that, not covered by this too, but like we do have some positions that have been open for a long time. So positions that were open last year that are still open, that were filled with long-term substitutes for critical needs, those are considered open positions. So, and if staff miss the windows, by let's say they decide they didn't want to apply, or there was a position been open a long time and they still want to apply, they still can apply for those. And so those are open. So say this position, somebody decided they wanted to, within the 3 days, if they missed the 3 days that was open from another building and they decide later they want to do it, they can still apply for that. If they miss those windows, nobody is prohibited from applying. They still apply, and we've had this practice in the past. They still apply, and they still are afforded the opportunity to interview, because there are staff doing that. Because we realize that we're not in the space now where a lot of positions aren't filled very quickly. So, and we even have had staff apply during the year to transfer into positions open for that year.
So did our 9 critical needs positions go open for reassignment and transfer?
So those positions have been open, and so when we initially opened them, they were open for internal reassignment and internal transfers. For this year, we just kept them open, so they're still open for any internal transfer to apply to. If they
didn't get a chance, somebody in that school hasn't had the chance to reassign to that position?
So they've had the opportunity because the position's been open for.
But it hasn't opened as a reassignment or transfer this particular year?
For this particular year, it's been open since the start of this school year because it's been filled by a critical need, so we've just kept it open.
They didn't get an email this year?
Say that again?
I'm getting asked the question, they didn't get any email saying it was open for this next school year?
So for those that have been filled by critical need hires or long-term subs, no. But it's been open this entire school year for them to apply to.
Okay, I get it, but it's kind of not open, because if you don't know about it, how do you know it's open?
Yeah, I mean,
I think we should do the same procedure. If it's open position, it's an open position. Because if somebody just started this last school year, they wouldn't have a clue that position was open.
Yeah, and that's true. And those positions are posted on the website, so anyone can go and look and see what all of our open positions are on the website. But I agree with you.
I think it's where I'm getting the questions. But thank you. I appreciate where you went through it, but I think that's where there's a miscommunication, is they think they're full, those positions.
Yeah. No, and yeah, that's definitely a good point to announce it, yeah, for sure.
Anybody else have any? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Cameron.
Yeah.
You have some? You have something, Catherine? No?
I'm just a little concerned that if somebody wants a position, that they don't go looking, see what's open. I think it would be wise for us to post, but we've had these positions open for a long time, and so I hope people who are looking to transfer are looking at in the right places.
I just like consistency, that's really.
And we'll send out a reminder to all staff, you know, that here's a listing of the open positions, and, you know, if you're interested, have the opportunity to apply.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
I agree with that.
But they do have that, opportunity, and if any of them have questions, if they call Human Resources, they'll be glad to help them out with that.
Okay.
And let them know what's there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Principal reports. Any questions for the principals? Okay, go ahead.
Never mind. I answered my own question.
Superintendent update, written report. Any questions on the written report? Okay, update regarding district-related matters. Superintendent Parsons.
Thank you, President Malkovich. I just have a couple of quick things for us tonight. We're pleased that the district applied for, so Shannon and Carissa in Student Services applied for literacy intervention tutoring grant that was available to the Department of Education. And with that, we were awarded the grant for FY26, which is this year, which allows to get some things established, and it's being applied for next year. Since we got it this year, we will likely get it next year. It's just we don't have it all confirmed through yet. That will allow us to place a literacy interventionist at NUMA, which is one of the requests that were made. That will allow us to have a grant-funded position that will focus upon on literacy and dyslexia with that. So we're very excited about that. That's a really good thing to try and help us with those. I would also point out that, you know, April is Autism Awareness Month, so if you search Google Autism Awareness Month, it'll tell you lots of different activities and things, the things that we can look at and celebrate. And one final thing too is that we're very glad we're in spring that time of year. As we saw today, the weather in Nevada, northern Nevada especially, can change upon a moment's notice. You know, from nice warm weather to rain and stuff. And just so you know, transportation's working really hard. There's a lot of field trips going on. We have 13 transportation requests for Monday for field trip and trip requests. So far, they're able to make it. District office had to dispatch a couple times, but you know, I just want to give kudos out to them for making everything work within the district and getting all the kids where they need to go. And so far, unfortunately, we haven't had to reschedule, tell them that we can't take them or reschedule. We do have to use vans and things every once in a while, but we're making it through that. And with that, that is all that I have for this evening.
Great about transportation. The conversation wasn't the same last year. Anybody else have any questions for Superintendent Parsons?
Just to backtrack a little, with the guidance from, I gotta get back to it. The AI, are you comfortable with our policy?
Yes, sorry, I was going to mention that too. Yes, so our policy doesn't circumvent that in any way. We're still working on guidelines to go with the regulation to accompany that policy, and a lot of that will be included with it. This was an update for the one of the Senate bills that was passed. And I do really appreciate the law that was passed in the guidance, because what this one does is it specifically states that we cannot use artificial intelligence or AI to provide behavioral or mental health therapy, which is so true, because those are things that I absolutely 100% believe have to be done by a person. It does list in there the things that they can utilize it to streamline their processes and things. But and one thing, and we will have some more additional training is planned for the start of next school year with staff on that, because we do have to keep conscious. We don't want them entering things that would violate FERPA and things into AI. So there's different things that they have to do and be aware of. It's a useful tool, but when we talked about AI, that human component is absolutely necessary. It has some uses in some fields, but providing behavioral or mental health services is not a field that I'm at all comfortable with it, and so I'm glad that it's not just about it's not just something that we say we're not going to do. It's against the law in Nevada to do it. So if anyone were doing that, and I do see a big rise, with things, and on my phone sometimes I get ads if I'm playing a game. Sometimes it'll say there's this recent one, this little alien, like, you can talk to me. I don't remember the name, I shouldn't say it if I did, but you can talk to me, like these apps for that interpersonal. I just don't think that those are healthy relationships with our kids. So I'm glad that it's not only a bad idea, but it's also illegal in Nevada to use it for behavioral and mental health services. So when we do, like, we do have to utilize telehealth services for some things, but that is with a live person on the other end. So if we're doing speech therapy or mental health therapy, things that are virtual for us, it's not an AI bot somewhere generating the responses based on it. It's an actual live person that's trained on the other end, that's licensed and has skills necessary to provide support and services to our students. But it does fall in line with our policy, and that's being given to everyone that applies to. And we'll be taking measures to make sure that we're not violating any of that stuff with AI, because it's very important that we keep that context in mind and that we don't use it in the wrong ways.
Thank you. Anybody else? And then we will move on to business services update. Budget to actual report. Any questions? Quarterly workers' compensation report. Quarterly student funds report.
We are getting this student activity report now. Thank you. I'm curious how we're seeing how much funding is in each one, and I know each one's going to be different when money is spent because of athletic seasons, especially in the high school or middle school. But how are you determining if funds are being spent down appropriately for the year that they're required?
So maybe let's just talk about the CCHS athletics one, because that's one that somebody had some questions on. So I checked with Nicole, and I just want to say that student activity is separate from district funds. So they're not the same thing. The CCHS athletics account, what goes into there are entrance fees to sporting events, donations from people in the community, athletic fees charged to students, and then they're spending the money on travel that's not state-related travel, supplies like balls, nets, things like that. So I think they took in roughly $65,000 worth of revenue and spent 55, something like that. Nicole sent me the report. So they're spending quite a bit of that money. And then anything that's not covered with their site budget for athletics sometimes can be, that money in the student activity can be used to make up the difference. So.
And we have been, the high school's talked to us, and we've been working with them. We do, hopefully, in either the May or June meeting, we'll bring back, and they'll explain, because I know that was a question the board had about their student accounts and how that works. And so we're going to be bringing that back with more details to kind of show how the money rolls through there. Because sometimes it looks like there's a lot of money, but what we need to look at is to make sure that it's rolling through and being utilized and not just a sitting pot for money. And that's what we're seeing as we're looking into it more.
On the report that I provided to you, the balance in that one account was around $18,000, and when I talked to Nicole today, it was already down to $9,000. So the money's being spent.
So how are some of these accounts replenished? Does the district put money, like, for instance, I think I just saw golf had like $611. So if they spend all of that money, like next golf season, do they get a certain amount of money put back into that account, or is that them funding their own accounts?
I think the money that goes into there are the fees the golf kids pay to play golf, and then any donations that they receive, fundraising goes into there for those specific programs. But I don't think,
Yeah, because those are student activity funds, so those are funds that are raised through fees, through donations, other things. They have separate funds that are also utilized that are part of the district budget, part of budget funds, but they're not part of the student activity funds. That's a report just unique to those funds that are, the money comes in that way. They're a separate system.
yeah, so the money that we allocate to the high school, for example, is on the district side. And then this is all something that they facilitate at the school site.
Any other questions on student funds?
So for clarification, are most of the funds we're seeing here done by student fees and fundraising, or what ones are district budget?
None of the student activity funds are district budget items.
So everything on here is raised a separate way, a different way.
Yes.
I have another question, I'm sorry. So for instance, right here, track, are they in the negative $7,000?
Hold on, let me get to that page real quick.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Do you know what page it's
It
on?
says page 5. It's towards the bottom because the 7,000 has a bracket around it. It says that they started with 5, right?
Yeah, so it looks like they spent more than they took in.
So how does that work? Like, does that money come out of other students' accounts, essentially, right? I know that this isn't like the specific checking accounts, but so now maybe that money is being supplemented from the swim team or other people who are doing fundraising? How does that happen?
Nicole's not
Do you
here.
want to answer? No?
$7,000 is quite a bit of money to be taking from somebody else.
Nicole would be much better at explaining this, but here's what I know. So anytime they dip into the, I call it the red, they have to have an action plan on how are they going to get out of it meet with me and Mr. Spencer and Nicole. And so I don't believe that 7,000 negative shows that they just completed their call-a-thon and they raised about $6,800. And so they're also in the process of selling signage on the new hurdles that we just got. And so according to the coach's paper, they will be out of the red. We wouldn't
Perfect,
take
thank
any
you.
money from any other program. The money that they raise is their money to use. Like, I don't pay for uniforms. I buy, or the athletic department buys what's essential for the kids to participate.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Risky.
Thank you. One more go at this. Anybody else have? All right, then we're going to move on to quarterly board budget report. Any questions on that? Okay, quarterly travel reports. Any questions on that? Business service update. There's a written report. Any questions on that? And then Amanda, did you have anything to add?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Any questions for Amanda? We good. Upcoming board events, as you can see, there are some graduations and some ceremonies coming up, a bunch of fun ones. This is a fun time of year. Mark them on your calendar. Consent agenda for possible action. Items may be pulled for discussion. Approval of recommended personnel action. Approval of vouchers. Approval of March 2026 payroll. Approval of March 17, 2026 regular board meeting minutes. Approval of March 26, 2026 special board meeting minutes. Acceptance of the budget transfer report and authorization to record budget transfers between functions or programs for the general fund for the period of 3/12/2026 through 3/31/2026 is required by NRS 354.598005. The approval of the Churchill County School District's Title VI Parent Advisory Committee bylaws effective April 2026 to March 2031. On the recommended personnel action, there is a teacher listed as first grade, what is it, Lacau? Is actually kindergarten. Just that is a change on the personnel action.
I move to approve consent agenda items 11A, B, C, D, E, F, G, with the noted changes on the personnel action sheet.
I have a motion by Trustee Whitaker, second by Trustee McFadden. Any public comment on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor? It is unanimous. Moving on to reports by board members. Trustee McFadden?
So as the NASB delegate, they did have a meeting earlier this month, and we have another one in a few days. But you'll see some reports in there on the Nevada Metrics Subcommittee and Accountability and the NASB Advocacy Institute. I just want to mention that State Superintendent Dr. Victor Wakefield gave a presentation at our meeting, and it was really insightful of his process, and I tried to get like a recording or a summary of it, but that wasn't available to share. There sounds like there's some really good stuff and changes happening with the accountability and the other committees he's working on. Hopefully, Catherine can expand further on some of that. And then also, I had the opportunity to go to the high school Addams Family play. If no one's going to our high school theater, they really should. It is an outstanding performance, and it's really a fun event.
Thank you. Trustee Whitaker?
Is the reports, I know later we have an agenda item about that, so I won't spend much time right now on them. I do have a meeting with the committee again on April 28th. I also went to the play. It was fantastic. It really was, and definitely something worth supporting. And look forward to their continued work in the theater department. Had national board meetings and convention past couple weeks ago. The focus again is on advocacy for, as I represented also Nevada as in the delegate assembly, but the beliefs and resolutions did not change as far as the priorities for national advocacy. The focus on Title I funding, funding special education, supporting public schools in all ways possible, anything with work-based learning. All of those things are priorities. There was an addition to a resolution for recognizing cultural differences. It was specifically something brought forth by the American Indian and Alaska Native Council, so that the considerations are recognized for their native practices and customs on their tribal lands, more specifically. The National Association continues to support school boards in almost every state, and will continue to do so. I'll have new committee assignments shortly with that role. One of the keynotes that I went to was with, I think all of you receive constant emails unless you've unsubscribed from Ballotpedia. Interesting, fascinating. She lives in a rural community, and she spoke, and they just recently did a survey on rural schools and school boards, and they asked for, maybe some of you did, there was a survey that they asked us to complete, which I participated in. Anyway, very fascinating. The biggest takeaway from that is access, that rural schools lack access to what? And again, I'm just repeating what we already know, but it's because this this group is now taking it on, it helps to amplify the voice, is my point with that. So I think that's significant and important. So if you see Ballotpedia emails with reports, maybe not unsubscribe, but just, and yeah, if there's any surveys about rural especially, that would be helpful.
Thank you. Trustee Guerra?
I attended the NSBA with Greg and Wendy and Catherine, who was recognized. And I left most of my notes at home, but one of the keynotes was Deborah Norville, which I really love her. And then the other one was Brendan Fleming. And I was going to try and just do cliff notes, but I just kind of want to read what in his session, he said, it's easy for people across partisan lines to focus on what they disagree about. However, it takes true thought and leadership to shift our focus toward the areas where agreement and progress are possible. Everyone agrees that education is in crisis. Everyone agrees that education requires immediate action and innovation. Everyone agrees that every student should have access to high-quality education. So where then is the division? It's language. Two people with different experiences and speaking different languages may not even recognize that they want the same things. That is where leaders have an opportunity to build bridges that connect people across socio-political lines by helping them to see themselves in others. This can only be achieved through empathetic leadership and communication. I just thought that was super interesting and maybe something that we need to try to imply. Anyways, it was a great conference, and that's all.
Thank you. Trustee Blakey?
Yeah, I attended the grad nights donkey basketball, and if you haven't attended that, you probably should, because it's pretty funny. It was my first go around, and it was cool. I also attended the PD day that we did when we had the speaker. I got to walk around and check out some sessions. That was very interesting, and I think that that's a really neat idea that our district's trying to do. So hopefully next year we will continue it on, and there will be more sessions that everybody's wanting. And then I also attended the UNR football night here at the high school. It was a great evening, super fun. I would just want to give a thanks to Brian, Trish, Shelley, the CCHS school, and the city of Fallon for making all that happen, because that was a lot of work.
Thank you. Trustee Bullock?
So, like the others, I attended the NASB conference, and that was great. It's always awesome to be around other people who think the way that you think and have the same goals that you have. One of the things, though, I want to kind of touch on, there were so many positive things that we don't even want to get into this today. I could talk about it forever. So one of the classes, though, that I went to really makes you appreciate where you come from and the board that we have here, because the class was regarding like negative boards, and they kept asking people to like raise their hand and comment, tell us your experience. What did your superintendent do? Like, how is your board handling things like this? And I was really able to look around the room, and I was like, I think I'm in the wrong class, because I do not feel that any of these scenarios that they shared that day was anything that I've experienced in the 2 years that I've been on this board. So I was really, really grateful for that. And I just can't wait I love going to classes like that. The next thing for me is I have been fortunate enough to be attending all of the swim meets, because my son is on the high school swim team, and they are killing it. So they just really are. The entire swim team, they're killing it. I don't know if any of you, unfortunately for the swim team, they only get a little tiny skit in the newspaper, but if you take the time to look for it and read it, you will see how many of our students are coming in first, second, third, and as a team on the relay, they are coming in first. So their times are awesome, and they're doing amazing. And I'll be there for the next several weekends as well. If you guys need me, I'll be at a swim meet. So, that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Real quickly, I went to the speaker at the high school. He was a great speaker, real motivational. Then NSBA, great sessions, a lot on AI and technology. But the last speaker was kind of funny. He talked all about technology, and his final message was, put your cell phone down and go outside. That's what I did. I put my cell phone down. It was kind of nice. And then NIAA, the only thing I'm going to say about it is, you should never have an even number of board members. You should never. We had plenty of 6-6 votes the other day, which means we got nothing done. So, if you're ever going to put a board together, make sure it is an odd number. That is all I have for tonight. Okay, new business, closed session. The board will meet in closed session, negotiate a contract with Mr. Blake Cooper pursuant to NRS 288.220.
Move to go into closed session according to NRS point 288.020.
I have a motion by Trustee Whitaker, a second by Trustee McFadden. Is there any public comment on us going into closed session? Seeing none, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. We will now be in closed session. I'm going to reconvene this session. For discussion and possible action, approval of superintendent contract for Mr. Blake Cooper. Presenter is myself. I'm going to hand it over to Charlotte to go over the amendments we made, please.
The draft contract that is in board book was arrived at with the president and vice president working with the consultants and Mr. Cooper. And upon the full board weighing in on the terms, the board is pleased with everything except two revisions. One is minor. I'll cover that one first. So on paragraph 7, salary, the second sentence will be changed, the third sentence will be changed to read, in any year in which any bargaining unit is not provided with a step increase, the superintendent will also not receive the annual step. The second proposed change has to do with the term, which is in paragraph 1. The last sentence would read, this takes effect, second to last sentence would read, this takes effect on July 1, 2026 and remains in effect through June 30th, 2028. And then this sentence would be used instead of this contract may be extended. Well, we'll leave that in. This contract may be extended. But before that sentence, we would say, before July 1, 2027, the board will consider an extension of 1 or 2 years. So those are the two changes that the board has arrived at and Mr. Cooper is agreeing to. So essentially, it's a 2-year contract, but after the first year, the board will decide whether to add a year or 2 so that Mr. Cooper would have more than just 1 year remaining in the contract after the first year. Any questions from the board on that? Okay.
I move to approve the contract with Mr. Blake Cooper with the proposed amendments.
Motion from Trustee McFadden, a second from Trustee Bullock. Any more board discussion or public discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Let the fun begin.
Thank you. Blake Cooper for the record. I'm going to try to do a little bit of speaking here without getting choked up. So, first of all, thank you. It's an absolute honor to be the next superintendent of Churchill County School District. As you all know, I'm a parent. I'm a community member here in Fallon, Nevada. And, of course, I have the great honor of being the next superintendent of our schools. And I take this responsibility extremely seriously. I will lead with all of those perspectives as a parent, as a community member, as a teacher, as a staff member within our district, as a district office representative. I'll represent our school board, and I'm going to take all those perspectives into this role. I'd like to begin by thanking my family first and foremost, especially my wife, for her unwavering support since we've been together and throughout the years. I would also like to extend my deepest gratitude to all the professional mentors I've had and colleagues, not only in Washoe County, but in Lyon County. This is truly a dream come true, and I would like to just thank all of them for their guidance and support over the years. I'd like to thank all of our staff in Churchill County for all the hard work that they put in daily. I appreciate every one of them. Lastly, I'd like to thank the school board for entrusting me with this great opportunity to serve in our wonderful community of Fallon, Nevada. I look forward to building a highly productive working relationship with you all. and I promise to always lead this district with integrity, ethics, and I will make you proud. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions for me? All right. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on for D, for presentation discussion, update regarding the athletic winter sports survey results for the 2025-2026 winter sports season. Mr. Mello.
I also brought Coach Connors here tonight to give some updates in case you guys had questions. So I know we've had time to look at the survey results. In my opinion, everything I was pleased with. Everything was average, good, or excellent, minus the two questions. But what I really wanted to focus on is kind of a six-part series of the first being the winter results and highlights. So first of all, girls state champion in basketball, which we are going to honor on Thursday at 11 a.m. The city of Fallon is doing that, so dyeing the fountain green in their certificates, whatever it may be. So if you guys can make it, that'd be great. Next, we had Carson Melindy with four-time state champion in wrestling, which is an unbelievable feat. At 15 academic all-state student athletes. That's just varsity with a 4.0. Not only do we have the state girls basketball state champions, we also had the coach of the year. We had 9 student athletes that received postseason awards. And we had 5 wrestlers place at the state wrestling tournament. So those are some highlights of the winter. Moving forward, what I would like to do and what I've worked with my coaches on is we're going to continue to put a huge emphasis on academics, attendance, and leadership, both on and off the court. And so I've really been working with my coaches, really kind of dialing this is my focus this season has been the attendance piece. And so we had a student athlete not to go to a game today because they didn't show up to school. And so I think we hit this pretty hard. It's going to send a message. And so next of my 3, and I'm going to hand out there, I did put papers up there, some pictures, and this is just one quick talking point. So kind of my next statement, section would be facilities and future. I truly believe that we have the best facilities in Northern Nevada. Fun story, when Nevada reached out to coach and they wanted to do a scrimmage at our facility, associate athletic director came down, Coach Cho came down, who's the head coach, and we were able to show off our new lights. And Coach Cho, who's the Nevada head football coach, was upset because Mackey doesn't have those lights. So I'm at work the next day. I get a phone call from Stephanie, who's the University of Nevada's athletic director. And she said, because of us, she now has to put those lights at Mackey Stadium. And so I absolutely love that. And it was very weird getting phone calls from the university to ask about what we did. So again, super proud. None of this can happen without Dustin. I actually met with him again today, and because of Dustin, these things are possible. Another fun one was, so the game was about to start the scrimmage. We had a great crowd. The football team was out there getting ready, and it was about 2 minutes before the kickoff was going to happen. And Coach Choate called me out on the floor, or on the field. And of course, I'm going 100 different directions. I'm thinking, what's wrong? And he goes, Brian, who did your guys' turf? I told him, you know, the company that was out of Vegas. And he said, quote, this is the nicest field that we have ever been on next to Texas. And so I thought maybe he was just pulling my chain a little bit. But he called over number 42, Isaiah. And he goes, Isaiah, what do you think of the field? And he goes, Coach, this is legit. And so just that sense of pride that what we're doing, you know, these Division I athletes are, you know, and I know the coaching staff echoed that with all of our coaching staff. Again, Nevada used our technology up in the press box, and they were excited that it was the exact same stuff that they're using at the university. So, which made me very just proud of what we have. We've also have new lights in the gym that we can control with our phones, and that they are resurfacing the gym floor this summer. So, things that I would like to do in the future, if you look at that I just gave you, I would love to redesign that floor. Now, this is just my vision. I haven't talked to any of the basketball coaches, any of the admin, but really making that center logo very big. It's a new thing that they're doing in colleges. No high schools have this. Staining the green in the three-point line. A lighter court, which would draw your attention to the kids, and then a darker outside, that, again, just to draw those eyes to the student athletes. Again, I would love to resurface the track. If you look at the very bottom right now, there's a picture on the bottom right of our track. I don't like the red. I love the image right here of the black track with the green exchange zones, which looks like a green wave. And so, again, if I had unlimited budgets, but I'm not going anywhere, and if I need to do bake sales, we're gonna make this happen. And then obviously the last would be I would love to turf and turn baseball. So turf softball, turf baseball, and turn it so they're back to back, where we can have one location with concessions, announcing, and where the fans can see both games going on at one time. And I know maintenance would love for those to be turf. Equipment, I'm going to pass it over to Coach Connors.
Hello, thank you for having me. Appreciate you guys very much. You know, I'll keep it brief. With your guys' help, you know, being able to keep up to date on football equipment, it's very expensive. For one helmet, it's $555. So equipment is very expensive. We carry anywhere from 80 to 90 players. Working with Rick from Rydell, Rick Lancaster, he's put out a 7-year plan for us to purchase 12 helmets each season for the next 7 seasons. Right now, at the end of those 7 years, there'll be 83 helmets that we will not be able to use. So by staying on this plan provided by Rick at Rydell, we'll be able to keep up to date and keep our players safe. And that goes with shoulder pads as well. As it's set up, we're able to purchase 50 shoulder pads for $10,000, and those retail around $355, but we get a discount on those as well. So with your support and your help, you know, you guys are able to provide a first-class experience for these athletes and make sure that they're up to date and up to code on all of the equipment that is needed. And so, you know, and footballs range from $120 to $150. So this isn't a sport that's cheap. We have parents who purchase pads and helmets for their children. You know, part of when I took over this program and spoke with you guys prior, being able to keep up to date with equipment was on the top priority list of myself and Coach Mello as well. So we do have a plan in place, and that wouldn't be done without your help. So I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
All right, just a few more and we're done. So with the equipment, we also purchased new soccer, or we're purchasing new soccer goals, and we have updated benches for soccer football that have a backrest and a table. And again, Nevada was jealous, and they wanted to know my contact because they want to get those. Number 5, so our student athletes right now going on in the spring, I just turned it into the NIAA. We have 21 student athletes that made the academic all-state team with a 4.0, just varsity only. I have already mentioned Thursday at 11 o'clock we're honoring the girls basketball team. And on that same day at 3:15, we have 8 student athletes that will be signing their letter of intent to go play at the next level, ranging from football players to track, softball, and cheerleading. So the community outreach, I just wanted to say none of this is possible without, on the April 10th, we hosted what I thought was one of the coolest events that I've done here. In just working with the different groups from Dustin and Maintenance, the City of Fallon, we had 22 units of escort in from with the Nevada football team coming in. And so the Fallon Police, the Fallon Fire Department, the Sheriff Department, Banner Hospital, Booner with the Nevada alumni, had the grid. So it's just being able to make connections in the community and getting everyone involved with the high school and really truly creating that green wave experience. Last, and then I'm done, Coach and I met with the Nevada coaching staff yesterday, and they are coming back next year to do the Nevada scrimmage again. And so that was a big goal of ours, was doing it right the first time, getting them to want to come back next year. And so we will be doing that, and Nevada has offered to do the night that they play Air Force. They're doing, obviously, the military appreciation, but they're also doing a Fallon night. And so, which would be a sectioned off, and they are going to be giving us discounted tickets. So that was my word. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I actually just had a little comment. If you got with Miss Amanda over here and took bagels or anything like that to her office in regards to the budget of the turf, that I think is amazing. But
He's hooking her up with football gear.
right, that's what I like.
So, go, not done. Winter sports survey.
Yep.
How many students participated?
As far as the responses,
Yeah,
it wasn't great. It was about 31.
okay. So how reliable is the survey?
Well, based off of last year and the year before, it's consistent, if not a little bit better. And one of my focuses was, that we talked about last time, was that communication piece. And that was number 4. And I put in one of the parents' comments in there. And so I was kind of beating myself. I stressed a lot about this, talked to the coaches. But then when you look at it, we have 60% is good or excellent, with the other 40% being average. So I think we're doing a pretty good job.
So in the past, we've had, this is the student survey. In the past, there's been a parent survey.
Student and parent. This is the student-parent survey.
It's combined.
Correct.
You've combined the scores. Okay.
And I can't see who did the survey, but I think this is 99% parents.
Okay. You've talked about some amazing and wonderful things about facilities. I really appreciate the discussion and the recognition that we have to make sure that students are safe when they play sports, whether it's football or soccer that has as many concussions as football can. What's happening with making sure that coaches are trained appropriately so that they can support the student athletes?
Well, there's classes that you have to take through NFHS to be a coach, and so those are updated. Concussions are every 2 years, first aid is every 3 years. And so that is the legal side of it. And then the other part is constant communication. I go to, minus swim, because it's not comfortable for me, I go to every practice of every team. And so I'm there talking with the coaches, and so it's not, they know and I'm there to answer questions. And so if they're not sure, And if I'm not sure, I find out.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
On this piece of paper that you handed out, you said that the gym floor is gonna be done this year?
So the current gym floor that we have right now is just being resurfaced. So they buff it down and then they put a new lacquer over the floor.
So this is a potential for like future?
This is my vision. I would love to
Okay.
redo the floor at some point, redesign it. So I know for a fact that the gym floor that we have right now has been redesigned twice in the last 40 years.
Okay.
And so this is more of an updated, collegiate look that no other high schools have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to E for discussion and possible action, approval of human resource analyst employment contract with Savannah Peel. Superintendent Parsons.
Thank you, President Malkovich. You'll see in there, there's a memo from Cameron HR has an opening for an analyst. They interviewed applicants and are recommending Savannah Peel. She's not with us tonight, but they're recommending her employment as an HR analyst. We've included the contract that we're asking the board to approve. Cameron is here if we have questions for him, but she's very qualified for the position. He's very excited to get her here and help manage the duties of that office. They're quite busy right now, as you might imagine, being down a staff member, especially at this time of year. Well, I think they're busy all the time, but this is a very busy time of year as well. So we worked out, negotiated a contract with her based upon what we've been doing in that position and what we have there. And the terms are in there. If there are questions that you have, our request is that you approve this contract and we can get this employee started and functioning in HR very soon. I believe the start date was in there. When's the start date, Cameron? May 4th. So we have her, she'll be able to start real soon if we're able to get the contract approved.
So, is this my time? I need to disclose that Savannah Peel is my husband's cousin's wife. So while that is not within the third degree of continuity, I will not be abstaining from voting. Everyone gets fouled up on that word, right? I practiced it like 3 times, I swear. So I will still be voting on this item.
I move to approve the employment contract for Savannah Peel as human resource analyst.
Okay, I have a motion from Trustee Whitaker, a second from Trustee Blakey. Is there any more board or public discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, moving on to the next one. Approval of Director of Student Services contract with Shannon Coombs. Presenter, Mr. Parsons.
Thank you, President Malkovich. So I am glad to say that Shannon Coombs is here with us tonight, and so we'll have her go ahead and come on up to the tables there, Shannon. As you know, with Catherine leaving, we had the position open. We opened the position until we held it open until after the board had named the candidate for the next superintendent, and now that, and so Mr. Cooper, now that the contract's approved, I'll call him our next superintendent, Mr. Cooper. He was also involved in this process because this is, Shannon would start July 1st, which is my first day of retirement. So we wanted to involve the next superintendent in this because this is a cabinet level position. And so Mr. Cooper was there for the interviews. And so he was involved in that. I was not in the interviews. I had a previous commitment week at Pinwheels for Prevention, so I wasn't able to be there when we did that. But we had a district team that Mr. Walker led, and with Mr. Cooper there, and they were very impressed with Shannon. I've met with her. She came over prior to interviews and went through Northside and went around there to see if she wanted to make sure that she would be a fit for what we were asking her to do. She has a lot of history in early childhood, is licensed in early childhood, has not just taught early childhood, but has done other things with training and teaching and things with that, teaching of adults. So, and she's been the principal at Yerington Elementary School for several years now. So she has quite a bit of good experience. You know, the position has another main part of the position is overseeing the grants and some of the other things that come out of student services, quite a few other duties. And she has some knowledge, but she knows there'll be a learning curve for that. But her experience, I think, sets her up for a good foundation to be able to do that. I'm very pleased to bring to the board this candidate for this position. We're asking that you approve her contract. Shannon and I negotiated the contract as the current superintendent, and that's the terms that you have in there. And I've asked her to take a minute and tell us just a little bit about herself so the board can get to know who she is and hopefully feel the excitement that I have on bringing her on board, even though I'll be retired. I just think will be a great asset for our district, for our community, and will really be able to meet the demands of the position very well. But Shannon, tell me a little bit about you.
Thank you, Mr. Parsons. I also want to thank Mr. Walker. I know he couldn't be here tonight, but he definitely helped me feel welcome when I came and visited a few weeks ago. And I want to thank the Board of Trustees for allowing me to be here tonight and get to know a little bit about me. My husband Brandon is here, and my son Bailey got permission to come, or he returns to duty tonight. A little bit about me, the rest of our family. We have a daughter who's in college, her first year of college, and I have a 6th grade son. So definitely have a breadth of experience there on the parenting side that I would be bringing to the position. I have 25 years in education, all so far within Lyon County, but 5 years teaching pre-K. I had 1 year as the early childhood coach for the entire district, working closely with the state and overseeing that grant time, and then 7 years in administration at Yerington Elementary. I just want to say that I thoroughly enjoyed my experience. The day I came, I told my husband, it'll be an hour or so. I'll go visit the school and meet Mr. Parsons, and I'll come home. And we almost didn't make a doctor's appointment that afternoon. I think I was here 4.5 hours. And I really loved meeting the staff, both at Northside and at the district office level. Everyone was very welcoming, and the atmosphere within Churchill County School District was absolutely astounding. I just want to say thank you to everyone who welcomed me. And I'm very excited to work with the staff at Northside Early Learning Center, site leaders across Churchill County School District, staff within Churchill County School District, you as the Board of Trustees, as well as the parents and students within Churchill County School District, so that we can continue to inspire the students of Churchill County School District as they learn and grow their highest potential. That is my goal. So with me, you'll get 150% of everything I have to give, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Great, thank you. And I will say when she was here and she visited Northside, she got the good, the bad, and the ugly. She didn't just get, here's all the good things. She got the whole, full, real thing, and then I was a little worried, and she was as excited as could be. So, I mean, and that was very good. And I know she's really prepared to work and tackle those challenges that we have and work with everyone well. Another note, and I know that she'll work well with Superintendent Cooper. She was his vice principal in Yerington Elementary School, so they have a working relationship from the past as well. So I think that's important in establishing that we have good, strong leadership and things going forward as well. And Ms. Mike Walker had worked with her and been talking with her for a while about coming over here. So I'm glad lots of people and things I'm just very pleased with the background knowledge and I think the wealth of things that she'll bring to this position. I'm glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
No questions, but I would like to make a motion to approve the contract with Shannon Combs as the Director of Student Services.
Okay, I have a motion by Trustee McFadden, second by Trustee Ghetto. Any other board or public discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Welcome. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. I am very excited.
I'm going to add one.
We'll check back in a couple months.
I think some of this goes back to her having interest here. When you might remember a board meeting where we were, I don't know, there were some paintballs happened outside. Her son was the responding officer. And so, you know, there, so, you know, we're glad to see that that led to something good.
I just want to say that green looks good on you.
Again, welcome. Okay, moving on to G for discussion and possible action. Acceptance of the proposal from LP Insurance Services for Anthem to continue as the district's medical, adding a Tier 4 co-payment prescription coverage. And Kansas City Life is the district's insurance provider for dental, vision, and life insurance coverage for the July 2026 through June 2027, reflective of a 7.7 health insurance increase, 2.3% dental insurance increase, 13.5 vision increase, and basic life 0.02 decrease from the 2025-26 fiscal year. Cameron.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
All right. So throughout this school year, the insurance committee has met with LP Insurance throughout, starting in October, where we met with LP, and we're just reviewing utilization rates at the district, which were throughout the school year pretty on par for this year. We did have a few outliers that may have determined that initial quote from Anthem that was at 19% for the school district. And so with that being said, with that initial quote coming from Anthem, we had LP Insurance, and I forgot to mention, we're grateful for LP Insurance being here tonight. This is Maria Ibarra, so thank you so much, Maria, for being here. And so we had LP Insurance go out to bid for other providers. And so as you can see for medical, we had other bids from Cigna, Hometown Health, Aetna, and then other providers that declined to quote, provide just like quotes for us, as well as plans, just different plan options for us to review as well. And after they came back with those quotes, Anthem came down to 9.9% for us. And just to reiterate, the district and staff feel that Anthem is a strong medical plan. Probably, Harold could attest to this too, is probably one of the strongest medical plans in Northern Nevada for school districts. And so we really didn't want to mess too much with the plan options. However, LP Insurance did come back with that Tier 4 prescription coverage option. That includes a $500 co-payment for staff if they were to be prescribed a Tier 4 medication, which then lowered our plan to 7.7%, which if you go and look at Cigna Hometown Health is around that same area of their quotes for similar plans. And so we met as an insurance committee and reviewed that medical option and decided to propose that 7.7% plan, adding that Tier 4 prescription copay. And then regarding our other plans, our dental, vision, as well as our group life insurance plan, we've actually, after reviewing each plan, we've decided to move forward with Kansas City Life. One thing to reiterate with that decision is that Kansas City Life is in the DDS network, so that's actually, there are more carriers and provider options that our staff members are able to utilize under that plan. And so with that, we were able to, as you can see, Anthem came back with a pretty high quote for our vision at 35%, but with Kansas City Life, we got that down to 13.5%. And so, and they're essentially, like I said, it's just as good and rich of a plan. It's just under the DDS, there's more network providers for that. So we felt like that was an easy transition and will be an easy transition for our staff as well. Felt like we would move forward with Kansas City Life and propose that for our dental, vision, and life plan. Yeah, so that's a little bit of the summary of how we came to our determination and would like to propose. Daryl, did you want to add any other?
Yeah, and so we have Marie here if we have questions from LP tonight. Tim wasn't able to be here. So the insurance committee, and they really did look and try to consider all the options. One of the things that we did do this year is we really asked them, since we went out to bid, to come back with what are options for lowering the cost, because these keep going up. We don't want to have terrible coverage, but what are some things that we can do? We have plans as part of the back to school thing and part of the open enrollment this year to try and do some education on things that people can do to try and keep the insurance costs down, as far as for different things like where you go for certain services and things has a big difference. Making sure if it's urgent care that you go to urgent care rather than the emergency room, because the costs of the plan are significantly higher when choices are made. But we also don't want to have it so that people aren't able to get their care. And the committee thought long and hard about a lot of those options that were presented, and then the having a 4-tier prescription, what that means is that those that are insured and the doctors are going to have to really make a determination, is this the medication or are there other medications that we could use to get to that point on the tier 4. And that lowered it additional down to the 7.7%. And every member of the committee, and the committee has representatives from each association and from the district, and they all agreed that thought that was a good thing to do, because we want to keep the cost in line, because we are very conscious that with, across the district, as diverse as we are with different contracts and things, increases amount to an increased cost per employee for the district. And in some cases, we have some people that are paying any increases and increased costs to what they pay each month, because with the contract with the Teachers Association, anything over $1,050 is what they pay. So this was a way to get that less. So we were very happy that happy is not the right word, but we were shocked when we came back with a 19%. We were happy to work and get that down to a 9.9, and then even further to a 7.7% increase. So we were able to use the market and use the different things and stuff. We were able to get those costs down, and hopefully with more significant educational opportunities and things that we do, and with that, and Anthem, or they seem to think too that if we do this with a medication, that could help lead to decreased medication costs as well with that. But the medication is still available. Anybody that needs it is still there and it's still available. That doesn't limit the availability of it. It just means that there's more thought in the decision-making process with it. Well, and more cost if they are in a tier 4. And we don't have an exact list of what tier 4. Insurance companies, every 6 months, they reevaluate their list, and the medications change based upon a number of factors, whether they're on tier 4 or not. But some medications that are being utilized by our plan are, tens of thousands of dollars a month, and those would qualify as tier 4. And so everyone's very conscious, trying to make what's the best move that's the least cost for the district, that still maintains a good benefit plan that is attractive to employees to want to be able to be here, and that they find as a benefit to them and their family. And you'll see that there were other options presented to the committee. The committee kind of went through and looked at all of those different options to see if there was ways where they could really want to recommend to decrease the cost more. And at this point, this is the recommendation of the committee, and I'm also comfortable with this recommendation. I would have made the same. And talked to Tim morning when he was here, and he feels like that what the words that the committee came out of was the best option that was presented and available to us. Switching, there's no penalty with Blue Cross in switching to Kansas City Life. It doesn't change anything with our medical plan, because right now we have everything with them. The big difference will be for employees is you might, if you district employees that have been around for a while, we used to be with Kansas City Life. like Cameron said, it provides us more, a larger network that's probably going to be better for some of our employees to pull from. And they don't need an insurance card. It's the Social Security number of the enrolled member. So if I were to go on Kansas City Life, I would just provide my Social Security number to my dentist or vision, whoever. Through that, they pull the benefits. I don't need a card. So that will be a nice thing. The other thing with it, that what we decided to do with that, and Maria can tell me if I get this right or wrong, but with like the vision, and I think it's just the vision, we talked about doing this, we had two options. So the option that we chose that we want to do would be a reset of benefits. So what that means is that on July 1st, Kansas City Life would then be in effect. So if in June I had used my services for vision and bought new glasses or contacts or whatever, I get to start over again on July 1, because we normally run, they run a calendar year, so we get a reset, so they now have another 6 months. So it's like an increased benefit, and there's no additional cost. So people can double use their benefit for the first year on that if they've used it under the one that we're on. And then they go and they just bought new glasses, they can buy them again and get that benefit. And that doesn't increase our cost to do that. We could have chosen to just allow whatever happened to remain for the rest of the year, but by doing that, that's an additional benefit to our employees.
So I do field questions from employees about why our insurance is so high compared to neighboring districts, and I think you did touch on that. Part of why our insurance rates are higher is our usage. It's just what it is with what we have. And then also our plan being not bare bones or bare minimums. It's a nice health plan. I just want to make that statement for clarity that that's why our rates are higher than neighboring districts.
You're absolutely correct. Our usage, and we run administration and human resources. We look in the community. We see the usage numbers. We can't share things that are tied to people because we don't know that, because that would be HIP issues. But we see what the numbers are and what our usage is, and we run very high. Our medication usage is very high, and so those numbers are, that really is the difference, is our usage. And we're large enough to where we have large claims that come in sometimes, and that impacts our renewal. But also that's part of why we do this, and we have a whole group pulled together so that it doesn't bankrupt any one family if they have a big medical issue. And we all bear that together. But we do have, and if we were to make our benefits not as good, there are some more things that we could do for some more cost reductions on it. But they would start having a greater impact on a lot of our employees by doing that.
So I actually have a question about the employee only, the $1,119.59. So what was that last year? What was the number in that box last year that the district was paying?
Was $1,040.64.
And then I just wanted to kind of make a comment that while the vision went up 13%, that was 13% off of like less than $5, right? Was it like $4? And then now it's $5.51. So it was actually only an increase of like 75 cents or $1.
Yeah, it was a very small amount,
yeah.
yes.
So while 13% sounds like it's this gigantic increase, it's really much.
No, and you're right. Those with vision and dental, they're not huge amounts, even though the percents were higher. And I think a lot of the reason for the switch was, one, it is a little bit of savings, but two is this network has more options and greater availability for our staff members, including all of the ones we currently have, plus more. So that was one of the big reasons that the committee chose to make that switch, was the better network for those services. But no, you're absolutely right. The percents on the medical and vision aren't a lot of money. That's why we made sure that if we changed, it didn't impact our medical, because the medical is where the money goes.
My only other thing I want to say is that the key here is education on using Teledoc, right, where that option is typically free. I didn't see all the things on here. I don't recall what it is, but usually that option is free. So educating all of our employees to do that.
Yeah, and we discussed in our committee as well, putting together like a cost savings document to go over the telehealth, to go over, rather than going to the emergency room, there's that option, as well as going to Renown. And just so like ways, there's just places that you can go that cost less. And so like putting a document together, and then maybe during a PD day having an hour section in there where all staff are required to go and review our benefit offerings, as well as those cost saving options as well.
Any other questions, or do we have a motion?
I appreciate those ideas for someone who's lived their life relying on health insurance. If someone has never done that, they really don't understand what is in an insurance plan. And so, so when they need it, then it's confusing and it's costly. It isn't about denying medical care, but being more vigilant about wise use of the offerings that we have. Because then it helps with the cost share for those employees.
And I will add too, just with this being approved, then LP can on the back end get all the numbers finalized and get Employee Navigator all up and running, and then we'll be able to run our open enrollment in. So those dates are still pending.
I move to approve the proposal as stated in the agenda item.
I have a motion by Trustee McFadden, a second by Trustee Bullock. Any other discussion or public comment? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate you being out here. Moving on to H, for discussion and possible action, approval of the tentative budget for the year ending June 30th, 2027. Any and every line item in the tentative budget may be discussed and changed. Amanda Hammond.
So you all have the tentative budget, and then I just wrote this memo, just kind of like a summary of high-level things that have changed or that have been added. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I don't have any questions, I don't think, but I did want to let you know that I appreciate it. I can't even find it now, but you wrote like a little comment on the bottom of one of these pages that said that you were taking into consideration the reduction of students, like we talked about earlier today. And I did note that when I was going through this, and I appreciate that being just kind of added on there so that everyone's aware that that is a consideration when making this document.
Could I add in too that I want to thank Amanda too. She's put a lot of time and work into this, and as a superintendent, I'm very confident in the budget that she's presented here, that we have taken all the many various myriad of factors that are part of a district budget, and that they've been considered, and they're looked in there, and that we have real information. I know this board, we've been through times where we've not had a solid, and this is solid information that we have here. And the goal in this budget is right there at it, is looking at we're developing our budget based around what a fairly confident expectation of what our income will be, and that we're not overexpending that. As we're coming out of the years with the federal relief funds and things that we no longer have, we're coming out of that is the goal, to keep it there, and trying to the programs that throughout the years that the board has prioritized and we prioritize as the district, keeping those things in place there and doing that without that the things that we value are in there and not dependent completely upon grant funds, while at the same time utilizing every grant fund that we can find and bringing that in place, because we know that those have changed too and aren't quite as much as we've had in the past in some instances. But this puts all of the positions possible within that budget range, and comes out to being a good solid within the guidelines that are set by the board and set by the law, with everything that we need. And it leaves us in a good place. We're in a good place with the budget on that. And a lot has to do with the actions that we've taken as a district and that the board has taken over the last couple of years, where we've been proactively looking and trying to get our class sizes where they should be, and by manner of not filling positions if we didn't need them, and making sure that we weren't having things that we really didn't need, but focusing on our student needs. I appreciate that Amanda has taken everything into a lot of things into consideration, has worked very hard on this budget. I think I have a great deal of confidence in the document and the budget that she's put here, that's been presented to us, to the board tonight.
Thanks, Gerald. Just because the ending fund balance looks low doesn't necessarily mean that the ending fund balance is going to be that low. This is, you have to budget for every possible scenario that could happen. And if you'll notice on page 12, the transfer to SPED in 2025, the actual is 2.9 million. I estimate that it will be 2.7 million this year, and then I budgeted 3.9. So there's $1.2 million there that we may not have to transfer that much. I'm just trying to take into account all the things that could happen. So while it doesn't look,
I said, isn't that what Trustee Malkovich calls an Easter egg at come next year?
And on that's not an outrageous number, because that is a very number that could likely be needed. It just from year to year, we don't know, so we have to budget, because if you have a little extra in something like that, if you're short, then you're looking at pulling it from contingency. So on budgeting, you run that line where you're trying to make it to where you're covering everything necessary with expected increases, because there are some Easter eggs, and then there are some rotten eggs that get thrown at us. Like this year, we're going to use more money for the last quarter of the year on fuel. So there are things that surprise us that increase costs as well. And in special ed, those costs can be real fast. We've seen there's an increase in a couple of areas that we may have next year.
Coming from small business, I come from the world where you want to be like down to the penny, knowing exactly how much you're going to have. But a lot of the problem with budgeting for a school district in that type of situation is that if you have an ending fund balance, or you project an ending fund balance that's too high, and then you do have something come up and you need to dip into those funds, you can't. You can't go below what your budgeted ending fund balance is. So that's also a tricky thing. You're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I'm going to give one more kudos on the budget that she's factored into the amount too, is that one thing that Amanda did do in her first months on the job was she got and we've had discussion about it, but she did get so that we're leveraging our bank account for higher yields of interest, and that has generated significant income, and that all helps, especially over the course of a year.
But we're excited about adding more bus routes, which is only just costing us that much more now, right?
Right.
It's a rock and hard spot for us.
Right, everybody can ride the bus, but it's costing us more money.
Yep.
I do have a statement, and I do want to thank Amanda for her hard work on this and our transition to having a budget that is transparent and we can trust moving forward in the future. And also to Daryl's, I don't know if frugal is the right word, but very conscious spending and looking at it and aligning it with the district goals and what we need to spend, not what we want to spend. That being said, there is a red flag that I at least want to expose, and I'm hoping, like Amanda said, budgets are worst case scenario. Their budget may not be that much, and we may look better than we plan. That being said, looking through this, Fiscal year 28 has the potential to be tight. And I just want to make the public aware that if we don't continue spending consciously, fiscal year 28 is going to be very hard on this district. I think Churchill County is probably one of the only districts in Nevada that can say they have a balanced budget going into next year, and that's exceptional. I'm very, very proud of the work our district's doing on that. But that's a highlight of a bigger systemic issue. That's not budget deficits in public education right now aren't school district problems. They're state funding problems, and that needs to blow the lid right off of that with our legislators that they're not funding public education the way it needs to be funded.
I will add too, we get money specifically for English learners and for at-risk students, and I believe the state pulls information from Infinite Campus to determine who's at risk in our district, but they are not getting all those students. I mean, we spend a lot for at-risk kids that the general fund has to absorb because we don't get enough funding for that, or for English learners. I mean, we have a lot of English learners. We have teachers and classified staff, support staff that the general fund does have to absorb. So we can't just discontinue those services, but we don't get the funding to cover them either.
Yeah, the pupil-centered funding plan, the way it was written, was if a student qualifies in more than one of those at-risk funds, you only get one. You still have to provide all of the services, but you only get the additional funding for one of those things. And that's something that's been spoken about, at least on the state association level, that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. But I don't know what are the ways that we can communicate with the state that they're not pulling every.
Well, not that they're not pulling it, but I just don't think every kid is getting recognized for the services that they need. I don't really know what the answer is. Am I making sense, Daryl?
Like for at-risk funding, this year we were highly affected by that because the state changed how they qualify students for at-risk funding. So that meant we lost, I'm trying to remember the exact amount, but it was like $260,000 of funding that we didn't receive that we did the year prior because of how they qualified students for at-risk funding. They changed, they now use some metrics, and there was an article about it, how the state is using AI in Infinite Campus to help make that determination. Prior to it was based upon students meeting certain criteria such as on free and reduced lunch or different things like that. But now it was changed to in Infinite Campuses if they're showing at risk. That doesn't really take into consideration some of the factors they used to use. So there was a shift in that. The funding amount for at-risk statewide was still basically the same in the budget, just what districts it went to changed by that change. And you can assume where most of the money went to. But there's some things like that do make a difference. And like I work within the Superintendent's Association to try and that's some of the things that we're working on and preparing for the upcoming legislative session to take into account. But that is one of the factors is how do students qualify for some of those things, and that changes. I mean, that was a big drop for us, knowing that put us into this year. We actually received less money because of that change than we did the year prior. So that was a big impact for us. Other things, there are many mandates that aren't funded. Special education is one, and that's one of the higher tiers of extra funding. But you only receive funding for 13% of our students. We're over 18% of students qualified as special education. So that means there's a certain amount of money available for statewide for students that are funded for districts over the 13% mark. 13% is what many years ago was determined as the average, and it's not. I think most districts are over that now, or a lot are. So then what that means is that after 13%, you're funded at 50% of what they're funded for up to 13%. So let's say every student that's qualified, for special education, we receive $100 extra for on the pupil-centered funding plan. Well, that's for the first 13%. After 13%, we only receive $50. And then the other kicker with that is there's only so much money. So if the number of kids above 13% exceeds that amount of money, they just reduce the amount till it comes within that budget. So instead of receiving 50, we might only receive 40 because there's a statewide cap on the amount of money for that within the budget. So there's some things like that factor in and have a negative financial impact for districts as well. And we're not the only district that feels that one because there are many that are over the 13%. I personally think they need to reevaluate that number, especially it seems that post-COVID those numbers are higher. It's not just a state issue. That's again one of those issues that are affecting schools and districts nationally as well.
Anybody else, or do we have a motion?
I move to approve the tentative budget for the year ending June 30th, 2027.
Motion by Trustee Whitaker, second by Trustee Blakey. Any more discussion on the tentative budget? Seeing none, all in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much for all your work. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Okay, moving on. For discussion of possible action, discussion on topics of concern the board would like to have addressed. A subcommittee for assessment, evaluation, and accountability redesign meeting. Trustee Whitaker.
Lost my place. So many windows open. So the next meeting we have is an online meeting, which is a week from today, actually, 28th. I believe. And I just wanted to give an opportunity for board members to share it after they've read the packet now, heard some things, if there's anything that you want me to highlight or represent when I go back to the committee. And I'll speak at once. There it is. You're going back to it. So the work, just as a reminder, the work that's being done right now is the district framework. So right now we have the NSPF, which is for schools. But the large bill that was passed the last legislative session, the Senate bill, requires now that districts also are rated. So one of the challenges and components with this was originally some of the things they brought as what you would be ranked on were things that districts should be doing as good practice regardless. And so there then became this idea of different levels, or I used the term and now I don't have my notes on that, that so the development and design is for districts, we're not talking school ratings. This is brand new, where the conversations are about how should districts be rated and in their performance. So, phase one is in this design and development, the purpose, scope, and use of results. So things like financial, board governance, things like that. So one of the things that we spoke quite a bit about was that boards who have challenging board members, and I can speak that here because I'm not identifying anyone on our board.
Similar to that class I took.
Yes. One of the challenges has always been for boards is if you have a disruptive board member, you really have no teeth as a board in how to manage. You can censor, but they still are on the board and can vote and still can create challenges for a board. One of the ideas with this is that it would provide a little more accountability to board members to behave. That's always a hope, but that this potentially could have some impact in that arena with providing the layout, the purpose, and the scope for what board members should be doing, and then the report then identifies if a board is or is not doing that. So that's one component that was discussed and that will likely end up in as one of the accountability measures for a district. And so that's the governance piece. One of the other pieces that's going to come out is, of course, the finances, which I mentioned, and high quality instruction. So this is a challenging piece, so because of determining what high quality instruction is. Part of that component is, are we recruiting? The recruitment piece, and how many long-term subs you have, how many teachers you actually have in the classroom. So that when you see that high quality under the current status and next steps, that's a lot of what that is referencing in that piece. Then so any thoughts or ideas?
Am I hearing that there's going to be more reporting to the state?
Yes. Yes. Because, there's not enough.
No, there's not.
That's what I was just thinking as you were speaking is, with this, and they're determining what measures are going to be used, no matter what they are, then my question in my mind is, how is there a plan started to be developed yet on how whoever is responsible at the state for reviewing this stuff, how will they get that information and what measures? I think it's too much to hope that we already have this information being provided in some manner so we can take that, utilize that to do this. I think based upon our experience with a lot of educational initiatives and things like that, there's going to be new measures and new things and like new reports required, and who's going to do those and how's that information going to get there. This could be something that requires significantly additional time is it from a board in their meetings to have to do something? Is it from district staff to have to put together information and bring here for the state to use for this? I mean, I think you're right, Joe, more reporting and I think the impact to a district is going to be, one, besides what is required, two is how is that information put together and presented to the state? because no matter, even if it's just, we give a bunch of raw information, raw data to the state with all this stuff, then they have to spend a lot of time going through it. And usually, what they do is they put it on us to refine this data and provide it to them, and then they, you know, work it around a little bit. So I think considering what's the potential impact on a school district, for these measures with the board on getting that to them and just how that will look.
Yeah,
Definitely.
the one that pops out to me is like district-wide targets and goals. So that we would have to have up-to-date goals and targets and submit that to the state. And then the board member portion, are they just going to go off our board member evaluations, or is there any talk? Well, I know there's talk about streamlining reporting everywhere, but I think that needs to be a major focus of not overburdening small rural district offices that are short-staffed as it is.
Well, and I think too that I think the intent of most of these things like this, and this is to help provide better things for students. I mean, it's one of better student outcomes, and how this measures is one of better student outcomes. But at the same time, in the process, I think they have to be very careful they don't generate a lot more things that boards need to do as part of board functions within board meetings that take away from the work of the board that works to generate those student outcomes. Because I know our board is, and we've tried very hard to focus on the things that come to the board and the board has to do to focus on our students and their outcomes. But if the board has to do, if there's requirements require quite a bit more administrative board work, you know, different forms the board may have to fill out, or like expanded evaluations or something. I mean, those are things that need to be considered too, because that takes time away from the board being able to do its core work as well.
But unfortunately, we bear the burden of legislation all the time with unfunded mandates. And it's a great idea. Here's more work. We're not paying you for it.
This gets communicated, some of this gets communicated every time about size of districts. There are 3 school board members on this committee that give, it's been invaluable perspective because of this perspective. SB 460 does require the state to do an audit. What that looks like we're still waiting to see, but that continues to be part of the conversation that board members bring up frequently as well, that this, if we're doing this, you need to, it's untenable. It's untenable for districts, large or small, but especially small districts too. And then there's no support from the state once those reports are given. So now you know where we're struggling. What is the state doing to support instead of punish for that? And instead of punitive, we need the state to be supportive in districts who might need that extra support. Is it dangerous to ask the state to come in to support? Maybe, but when you see other states and how they do support districts instead of just being a punitive overseer of that, it can make a difference in the work. So I will again continue to bring those things up as well. I'm not closing it, but yes, those are some of the things that
in some of the discussion questions, it mentions the use of school accountability data and the district data and how that's used. I think that is a really important piece that needs to be communicated, is how is the state using this data? Is it moving the needle for children? Is it worth all the work that it's burdening the districts? Or is it just so they can have a shiny star on their webpage?
Trustee Whitaker, I just had one comment. I was in the NAS meeting the other day, and just about every superintendent in Nevada had similar feelings to what the board has right now, so you're right on the money. And there was a big discussion around the rating system, especially for schools and school districts, if it's going in that direction. And it's just very unhelpful when you see a 1-star, a 2-star rating out of 5. So that was a large discussion in that meeting of possible other metrics, whether it's only 3 stars, the red, yellow, green, but are there any other options as far as the ratings go? And then there was also a lot of comments made about differentiation being needed between a school district like Clark and Churchill. You can't compare apples to apples. So that was another large discussion point, and then the support needed. So I think you're all pretty much on the money here. All I have.
President Malkovich, did you want to take public comment now?
Sure.
Okay, we just started.
My apologies.
So this particular item, we gave you feedback. Do we need to do more on this, or?
I hope I've taken good notes. I may ask Karina to listen to this discussion again to make sure I have everything that's been shared. But this is helpful for me. I appreciate it. Some of the themes have been ones that we are communicating. I will say that Dr. Wakefield has said that the star rating, it would be more like a check engine light. That's because of those discussions, that it's more of a check engine light idea than a 1 to 5 star district. We know how devastating that can be to our schools, and then, districts, just the whole thing. So, but that check engine light only is effective if the state can support the districts in the improvement component. So there's the 2 pieces that I will continue to have, along with everything else that you said. So thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you. Anybody else have any further on this? Okay, then we will move on. Thank you very much for doing the work on this. So we are on J for discussion and possible action. Regulation 1510, PERC. The superintendent is establishing a naming of facilities committee. The committee, as established in Regulation 1510.0, must include 2 board of trustee members. The superintendent is seeking 2 trustees to serve on the facilities naming committee.
Thank you, President Malkovich. So essentially, we do have an application, so we do need to develop this committee. It requires 2 trustees to be on this committee. It could go on for months. It could be done quickly. I will be working with Blake as well on this because as superintendent designee, and I don't envision that it probably won't be finished and completed and back to the board before July 1. So I'll work with Blake and we'll do that. But I do need 2 volunteers to sit on this committee. Time commitment. There will be a few meetings to go over things, depending on how it goes within that committee. I don't envision it being a huge amount of time, but it could take some time and a lot of discussion. That doesn't necessarily mean a name comes back to the full board, but this committee has steps that are outlined here that will be followed. So, seeking 2 volunteers.
Trustee Guerrero-Getch mentioned she was interested in this.
She's not here, so you'll just have to make an assumption.
Just because we get an application, do we have to name?
No, absolutely not. The authority to name a facility or within this plaque, anything like that, fully rests with the Board of Trustees. So this committee essentially does the legwork to go in and see, and the committee will decide to bring it forward to the trustees or not.
Or not.
The committee, an application does not mean it will ever come back to the board because it may die in committee, basically. But also it means if the committee does decide to bring it to the board does not have to approve the name.
And just for the record, what facility are we naming?
Can I say what the application is, Charla? Okay, there's a request to name the softball fields. And I think I'll just, that's what the request is, to name the softball fields, and then we'll give the committee the information to decide if that comes back to the board.
Is there an even number on the committee?
Maybe there should be, I don't know. No, superintendent, two board of trustees, employee of the district, parent, additional member of the community. Trustees, yeah. No, there isn't even a number outlined in regulation.
I'm not interested. Anybody? All right. All right, we have two from the center, Trustee Ghetto and Trustee Blakey. Okay. Trustee Ghetto and Trustee Blakey will do it. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you. We'll be in contact soon.
Does that need a motion?
We need a motion on that one.
No, I don't think that needs a motion, because it's just as like when we do the committees, it's a superintendent's committee, so we have two volunteers, the board doesn't have to appoint them because it's a superintendent's committee.
Okay, moving on to policies. I'm just going to go with the policy and what it is called. Stop me if you have questions on these. So we're going to go with A, policy 3010, budget development. Any questions on the policy or regulations 3010? Go on to B then, policy 4138, complaints concerning school personnel or the regulation. Any questions on that?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
In reviewing that, and then also reviewing some of the board policies, I noticed that policy 8000 grants specific powers to the board, and it seems to contradict changes made in this policy, specifically with hearing complaints.
So what policy does it contradict?
The 4138. Bear with me. The Board of Trustees has jurisdiction over disputes and controversies arising within the school district. Seems to be in conflict with the proposed changes where the board no longer hears complaints or concerns.
And so where is that statement that you just read?
8000 under specific powers. And I've just got a little bit to say on this change. I know we all just sat through a very frustrating and stressful process, and I know we don't want to do it again. And I don't blame any of us for wanting to do that again. But on the other hand, I think it's important that the public has an avenue to the board. I don't know if I'm completely on board with taking away that avenue and having everything stop at, looks like the assistant superintendent, except in extreme cases, but
if I may, this would not prevent the board from hearing a matter. It would just mean that it would have to go through the regular agenda request process. I think that's true. It is also late at night, so. But I think that that would be true. What this does, it means that the complainant doesn't have a right to be heard by the board. They have a right to be heard by the board in policy, then the board has to hear it even when it causes more harm than good, which I think was the case recently.
I think,
Just another thought.
I think a lot of the changes in the regulation addressed some of the issues that we ran into. Trying to find it again. Especially the verbiage about how it has to be provable evidence, not hearsay or rumor. I agree with a lot of the changes that were made. I think it's important for our constituency and our staff to have an avenue to the board. I do see what you're saying. It might be cumbersome, but they could request an agenda item. That's just my feeling, my opinion. I'm one of 7.
Any other thoughts on that? I mean, I read the changes and I like the changes. I mean, definitely put a barrier there. Can't fast forward to us.
Right, but, so, to Joe's final thing, it says all decisions made by superintendent will be final and binding within the district. So does that right there just take it away from them coming to the board? Oh, and the policy, in the changes for the policy that they want to make, it says all decisions made by the superintendent will be final and binding within the district. No, and I do agree, it was uncomfortable, it was not my favorite thing, but I think we do owe it to our constituents to be able to have something where they could come to us.
Maybe by taking that language out, then you could still leave it open for a board member to request an agenda item so that they don't have the right to an appeal. I don't know. Once you give a right to an appeal, you're stuck. When something is appealed that, well, you know.
Well, I mean, in history, I know we just recently had one, but it's not a very common thing.
One of the biggest challenges with it is in all of the cases that I have been a part of, it unfairly has employees are left and it's not unprotected, but it really unfairly puts employees at risk. And as a district, and the board has, in every single case, supported the employee, but we have lost employees because of it. And that is really, really unfortunate that we are exposing our employees to unfair allegations. We are providing a way for concerns to come through the district so that they can be heard. And that's a delegated responsibility that a superintendent should be handling. And the right to an appeal is very different than a concerned citizen coming to us with a concern. And so when we talk so often about making sure that we have employees and that we can hire employees, but in our policy, we're putting them at risk of exposure for unfair accusations, and that concerns me, that it happens in a public place.
I would also say, in support of that comment, that even though a hearing may be held in closed session, to have your name on an agenda item, which NRS requires, is very embarrassing. And nobody wants to have that happen to them. You don't want that to happen, boy, where, especially when these matters should be matters handled by administration, because that's the level of detail that they are. They are not policy matters. They're not the 30,000-foot matters. They're very, very detailed employee matters that should be handled by your administration.
So, Charlotte, I have a question, and I don't know if this applies or not, but is it possible, taking open meeting laws and things into consideration, that if there was some language in there that, you know, the superintendent is final versus there's one opportunity to appeal, say there's a time limit given to the Board of Trustees, but not necessarily the Board of Trustees, to the say the Board of Trustees and board leadership would consider whether or not to hear the appeal. It's not binding, it has to be heard, but they can appeal to them and they have the right to decide to do it. But is that a decision that would, again, have to be made in public meeting?
I think you would want to use your regular agenda request process, because I don't think you'd want to give additional authority to board officers like that.
So if it was want to be appealed to the Board of Trustees, they would have to contact a board member who would then need to request it as a BMAR as part of that portion of the meeting. And then, if I remember correctly, and I haven't reviewed it for several months, but in the BMAR process, it becomes a BMAR automatically if it's not contested, I think, by a board member. But when a board member offers a BMAR at the BMAR time, if somebody disagrees with that being a BMAR, they can then say something at that time. I think the board has to take a vote on it, whether it becomes BMAR.
All we've done then is we're just doing the same thing that we already have in the policy.
Okay, so we've had some opinions. We do have an even number of people here tonight. Where do we want to go with this? I support the policy. I will tell you that, because I've seen some come forward that shouldn't have.
I also support the policy, and I agree with Catherine. I think just from this, I don't love the situation that we went through, but from hearing from coaches, I think you might actually lose some if you give everyone the right. And they still have access.
Anybody else? Wendy, you have any input on this?
Well, I'm on the policy committee and I sent it up here, so I agreed with what we're doing at the time when we're in there, and I agree with how it's going. My only thing that I was going to suggest was that if Trustee McFadden felt so strongly about it, that we could go on with the meeting and pull this one out and maybe take another look at it. But it sounds like we have majority in approval, so.
Yeah, I know the policy committee spends a lot of time, and I guess my question would be, we could put it back at you, but is anything going to change?
But there's a majority who support it, and there were 3 members on the committee who all voted yes to move it forward.
Right, with that, Julie, you know,
On the committee.
she's on the committee and she approved with what we were putting forward to the board.
Okay, so then we will move forward. Where are we? Policy 4139, safe and respectful learning environment free from bullying and cyberbullying. Deletion. Any questions on that? Then we got 50.1, the McKinney-Vento enrollment dispute resolution process. Deletion again. Any questions on that?
Can I just make a quick comment? These are not being deleted. They are just being moved and renumbered. So I just think that that's important for everyone to kind of know that up front, that they're not literally going away. They're just being moved.
5100, new student enrollment. Any questions on that? 5115, application for out-of-county variance. Any questions on that? 5119, attendance policy. Any questions on that? 5121, State of Nevada notice of intent to homeschool. Any questions on that? 5244, late enrollment policy. 52, that is it, right? Is it? 44.5, any questions on that? Okay, let's move on. Discussion of possible actions regarding future agenda items as requested by the Board of Trustees and clarification of requested agenda items. Start on this end. Trustee Block.
Thank you very much for starting with me today, but I have nothing.
Perfect. Blake. Trustee Ghetto. Trustee Whitaker. Fadden.
I would like to see an update on the Rio Vista farmland, please.
Rio Vista. Okay. All right, so I have done. Agenda setting Wednesday, May 6th. Trustee Guerrero Getch will be there. Closed session. Do we have closed session tonight? Okay. 17, closed session for discussion and possible action, discussion of negotiations and strategies regarding contracts with Churchill County unrepresented employees, Churchill County Administrators Association, Churchill County Education Association, and Nevada Classified School Employees Association pursuant to NRS 288. Motion?
Move to go into closed session.
I have a motion by Trustee McFadden, second by Trustee Ghetto. Any public comment in going into closed session? Seeing none, all in favor? We are now in closed session, unanimous. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
That was bad, what were you going to say? No.
Such a pain.
Yeah, no, we did good, Kay.
I don't want to have to deal with it.
Extra push to get through the long meeting.
Yeah. I love it when I make you guys laugh in the middle of the meeting. It's my favorite thing.
That got painful towards the end.